Welcome to our playground.
Recess, the podcast, is an eclectic show of organic discussion, imagination, deep conversations, interviews, creativity, intuition, high vibrations, and fun.
Be informed, energized, inspired, and entertained with me, Jamie.
And me, Brian. Ready or not, here we come.
Because we all need to take a break. Hey, Brian, how's it going?
I'm good, Jamie. How are you?
I'm pretty good today. The weather outside has some sprinkled donuts in it. I'm seeing sprinkled donuts in my future.
When you said the weather outside, I started thinking that Christmas song, of course. Thank you. It's not Christmas time yet, but
of course.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited to play for the next 30 minutes with you, and we have a lovely guest.
Yes, we do. Yes, he's been called many things, including lovely. He's a good buddy of mine. I met him about 5 years ago at the Orange County Children's Book Festival, and it's been a pleasure getting to know him ever since. And I've spent some time with him, and he let me park my RV outside his house in Boston, Massachusetts, on my little RV trip a couple years ago. And he's a good guy. And his name is Jed Doherty. He has a stage name of Jedlie. Through the years, he's a magician. He's performed in front of numerous audiences and schools, spreading his brand of humor and his magic and really positive messages. And more recently, in 2017, he started a podcast called Reading with Your Kids. And I think the whole idea about it was to inspire parents and educators and young readers into reading more and learning and being inspired that way. And it's another great way to bring parents and children together. But I'm being too nice. He's not that good of a guy. So no, I'm joking. Jed Doherty, welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Now
I was just stumbling over my words.
I'm just gonna leave. I don't want to ruin that. I don't want to ruin the impression people have of me.
Well, yeah. Thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, and great to meet you, Jamie. I'm excited to be here and play at recess. It's been a long time. I used to get sent to the principal's office very often during recess, but we'll see if I can keep my dodgeballs to myself here.
Well, do I dare ask why you were sent to the principal's office? Probably talking too much, yeah.
Well, that was in class. Recess is probably getting a little bit over enthusiastic, playing whatever we were playing, and the tag somebody too hard playing football, or
you were probably aiming for heads in dodgeball.
I absolutely was aiming for heads at dodgeball. I mean, why
do.
Wouldn't you? What else is you to aim at?
Oh my gosh. There's so much we could talk about, but we will keep it clean. And
why start now?
Well, okay.
I'm just
all right. Oh, yeah, I know. Well,
go ahead, clean man. I see that.
Yeah, Noel.
I got some soap to rinse your mouth out with when you're done.
Well, growing up, I had to either stick my tongue out and get a little Tabasco sauce on it, which it wasn't fun, but I giggled throughout the whole process, or I had to bite on a bar of soap. And that I still kind of probably laughed it off, but it was like, it just took forever to get that crap out of my mouth.
Yeah, we didn't have
that kind of
punishment down here in Boston. We just kind of, we all
got smacked.
Yeah, we got smacked, exactly.
Well, my kids were blessed because when they were younger, they came out with liquid soap.
Oh, is that a blessing? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because from a very, when my kids first started experimenting, I explained to them that there were words that they were going to use, and there was places where they could use certain words and places where they shouldn't be using certain words. And they really got it, and both of them, but especially my amazing daughter, can have pretty severe potty mouth. But my daughter worked at a place with a lot of rough and tumble guys, and she worked there for about 4.5 years, and they never heard her cuss in the entire time she was there. And in fact, when some of them came over to the house for a celebration and they heard her cuss me out, they were amazed.
That's funny. So she was on her best behavior there, but she brought it all home and just let Pop and Mom have it.
Well, yeah, not so much Mom, but definitely,
Okay.
definitely me, because words are sounds that we make with our mouth. And, I think you can hurt somebody by saying, giving somebody an offhanded compliment can be more hurtful than just dropping an F-bomb somewhere.
Absolutely. One of the practices that I have taken on over the last 12 years is I call it conscious speaking, but knowing that our words can harm or heal. And it's really like you, with my kids were growing up, I said, it's appropriate every once in a while to say, fuck this. I said, especially if you really get a good inflection going, it's a great word. You can use it so many different ways. I said, but if you're using it to harm somebody, it's not okay.
Right. Yeah. And they got to get that hard K sound at the end. That's what really kind of drives it home.
Well, see, I grew up in the South and raised my kids in the South, so it has a little bit more of a carry to it. We kind of drag it out.
Okay.
Exactly. But, Jed, that leads me
damn,
to...
I think I just swore.
Hot damn, I got the
Vespas.
Vespas.
I am losing my
Yeah.
manners.
But Jed, the fact that you are encouraging families to come together to read, educators, all of that, why is that so important for you?
Well, when I started the podcast, I realized I was looking for a new topic to kind of launch a podcast around. And some experts said I should do this thing, and I was about to go in that direction. And then I said a little prayer, and it was interesting because all the experts said I should do a religion-based podcast because I perform. My educational magic show is very popular in a lot of Catholic schools around the country. And the experts made sense, but then I said a little prayer and I thought, nope, I'm going to go in this other direction. And I realized at that moment that the relationship that I had and have with my now adult kids was all built, the foundation was laid when we were snuggled up together reading books. And all the conversations we had about Dogzilla and the Clown of God and the Fox and Socks and the Cat in the Hat. All those conversations we had really were the beginning of the conversations that we still have. My daughter invited my beautiful wife and I out to a magic show last night, and it was great. And and it's not just going out and having that fun time watching that event. It's the conversations afterwards. And and since we're a magic family, we're able to take a look at it and say, well, what did you think about his technique and how he did this and that? And it's just wonderful. And it's the same with my son. And it was all built on reading, and reading with our kids led to cooking with our kids and experimenting with them, watching movies with our kids, going on vacation with our kids, seeing magic with our kids. And I wanted to share that. And I knew that reading with your kids helped kids learn how to read, but I didn't realize all the other benefits of it, that, kids who are read to 20 minutes a day, that they enter school having heard over 1 million more words than their peers who weren't read to. I had no idea that it helped kids develop empathy, that kids who are read to every day end up making a lot more money when they go out into the workforce. And it's not because they're smarter, they're reading more, it's because they're more empathetic. And so, these are, doing the podcast, I've learned so much from it. And so it's really been a blessing. It's so cool.
I love it because I grew up, my kids, I raised them, especially the first 5 years of their lives, where they weren't allowed to watch anything or read anything that wasn't educational. But bedtime, that precious time that you're talking about, was so important for me because I've always been a working mom. And so working out of the house and not being a part of their everyday life, say 9 to 5 or whatever, it was that evening time of bonding with them that eased my guilt a little bit, if you will.
Well, I understand the guilt, but I don't think parents should feel guilty because they're out working hard, trying to take care of their kids, trying to feed their kids, give them what they want. And there's so much pressure on parents these days, especially around college. And we're hearing a lot about college debt these days. And personally, you said curveballs are okay. I personally think the cost of college is obscene. It's a crime and there's no reason for it. But I digress. But it puts a lot of pressure on families to earn this mountain of cash that is just, for most families, it's not possible. It's $85,000 a year right now to go to most colleges in Boston. And so if you have a kid that's 5 years old right now, and you're living in Boston where the rents are between $2,500 to $4,000 a month. And now on top of that, you have to think, I have to, by the time my kid gets to college, it's going to be $500,000 a year. You can't do it. It's impossible. And so take some of that pressure off yourself. You're not going to be able to do it. So spend time with your kids, read with your kids, because in the long run, that's going to be so much more worth it. It's so much more valuable to your kids. And at some point, by the time the 5-year-olds are in college, hopefully someone's going to wake up and say, yeah, we got to deal with this. Let's figure out how to bring these prices down and make it affordable for human beings.
Absolutely. I totally agree. My daughter just finished grad school a year and a half ago, and she is beyond awe of how much she has to pay back.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the parents who are listening, who have kids that are in college and now are looking at college. I mean, we don't realize it, but we put a lot of pressure. A lot of the kids who go in and they take out these outrageous loans and they're 18 years old. And we wouldn't let an 18-year-old, we don't let 18-year-olds rent cars, but we let them take out hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan. That doesn't compute. And by the way, if you don't know it already, you can't discharge that. You can't go into bankruptcy. You're on the hook for that, period. But there are options. There are lots of ways the kids can avoid that. My daughter is a great example. She graduated from Berklee College of Music, one of those colleges that has that outrageous fee. To attend Berklee physically, it's $75,000 to $85,000 a year. She went through the online degree program. It was $15,000 a year. You pay a la carte for every class you take, you pay at the time. She graduated in the same amount of time. She was able to work a job in the music industry for 4 years. So when she graduated and she walked across the stage with all the other kids who paid all that money, got the same degree as all of them, she owed zero. She paid her way. So she had the pride of having worked and paid her tuition as she went. And on top of the degree, she graduated with 4 years of experience in the industry. And so there are lots of opportunities like that out there. I know it doesn't give you the college experience. You don't get to climb the rock wall or get drunk with, no one gets drunk in college, but you don't get that college experience. And I think my daughter missed some of that, but I think she's in a really good place right now. Certainly the fact that she doesn't owe any student debt is huge.
Yeah, it's just a huge weight. Just sitting on top of people. And a lot of the jobs that graduates are going to get aren't even going to scratch the surface of, making a dent in that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Young people getting out of college and they're, going in and working a retail job. There's nothing wrong. That's great, honest work, but it's not going to put a dent in a student loan that's $80,000, $100,000, $150,000.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. So I want to circle back. I was going to circle back to children and reading and what was your favorite children's book? Did you have one that you read with your kids?
I did. It was called, I mentioned it as The Clown of God, and it was written by Tommy DePaula. And it's funny, I had a conversation with Naomi Schaefer, who is the driving force behind a group called the Clowns Without Borders. And they travel around the world and they perform for kids in refugee camps and disaster areas. And they just invited me to be part of their group. And Naomi was on the podcast, and she was sharing that the book that she most loved reading with her stepdaughter was I forget the name, but it was also a clown related book. And in The Clown of God, the kids, you meet this person who, you know, learns how to juggle and clown and go and just spread love around the kingdom. And at the end of his life, he doesn't know if he's made a difference. And he's in front of a statue of Jesus. And he juggles his last thing, the last time he juggled, and then he passed away. And the statue had a smile on his face. And so the clown died knowing that he had made a difference. And Naomi and I, as we were talking about these two clown books that our kids love to read, we realized, and we talk a lot about representation, how important it is for kids to see themselves in the pages of books. Well, here was 3 kids, my 2 kids, Naomi's 1 kid, who were part of this weird clown family. And these books gave them a chance to see their families portrayed in the pages of books. So it just clicked with me talking to her the other day. It's like, oh, whoa, yeah, representation. It's pretty important. I didn't realize it, being an old white guy who's, you know, all the books we read had white guys in them. But yeah, it's that stuff is important. So that's a long answer to the question that you just asked.
I love it.
Mm. What's one or two of the takeaways ever since you started your podcast that kind of like, wow, this is really cool that this happened because of what I started? You know what I mean? What are some of the neat experiences that have kind of unexpectedly come your way?
Okay, so the first really neat, unexpected experience that I had, my son,
other than meeting me, of course.
Yes, absolutely. That goes without saying. But
I should have said that in the question.
My son texted me before I met you, Brian. In fact, it was about a year before I met you. My son texted me one day, and I'm working on the podcast, and the text said, "You should have LeVar Burton on your podcast." And I said, yeah, I should have $1 million in the bank too. And I just kind of laughed about it, and I finished the interview, and then I thought, what the hell can it hurt? And so I did a little research, and I found an email to kind of reach out to, and 3 days later, LeVar's wife emailed me back, and she said he'd love to be on the show.
Oh.
And so I had Hollywood icon, legend, Reading Rainbow host LeVar Burton on the podcast, and he was amazing and just a true gentleman and very, very insightful. And everywhere I go, and we've had amazing authors in the 5 years that we've been on, and you know, Brian's right at the top of the list. But in addition to Brian, we've had New York Times bestselling authors and the world's leading oceanographer. And today I interviewed Raymond Arroyo, who is on CNN and Fox and written all sorts of best-selling books. But it's of all those guests, people, when they see LeVar Burton, people of, you know, Brian's age and a little bit younger, they're like, oh, I grew up with Reading Rainbow. It's so cool. Oh, I remember LeVar. It's so, LeVar. And so that was really neat. So that was like the first one. And then actually, short time after that, maybe because we had LeVar on that got me the attention, we were nominated for the iHeart Radio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award. And when I first got the email from the folks at iHeart, I thought, yeah, this isn't real. And I deleted it. And I think I deleted 3 of them. And then finally, the email came in, and the subject was like, no, really, read this, please. and I said, wow, this is great. And I told my wife, and she kind of joked about it. But one of her colleagues, who's an aspiring pop star, he found out about it, and he's like, why iHeart Radio 1? And at that point, my wife said, well, we gotta go out to LA and go to the thing. And so we went out and walked the red carpet, and we met Brian afterwards. And it was a trip. It was a lot of fun. And again, just, meeting, developing great friendships. Brian has become a great friend, and just one of many that I've met through the podcast. LeVar didn't turn out to be a buddy, but he was a great guest. So
Awesome.
That's so fabulous. What a gift. And I will say this, Jed, one of the things that I truly appreciate is the fact that you really hone in on that nucleus of family. And it's not always family of origin. Sometimes it's family of choice. And being able to bring people together on a common ground. To me, the children's books is similar to music being that language of the heart, something we can always relate to. And I'm just curious, Brian, being an author of children's books, what is it about the children's books that's so inspiring?
Was that for me or for Jed?
Either one.
Well, in a nutshell, for me, I think it's just, we all grow up reading them, and we have such fond memories, whether it's, with our classmates, with our parents, and they just leave an indelible impression on us. And so to maybe be able to, pay it forward the other way and put one together and be able to manufacture and share a creative idea that we had is pretty special.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is so powerful about kids' books is if you are reading with your kids, and what we do is we suggest the reading is actually just the beginning. It's the conversation you have about the books. And if you sit down with your 3, 4, 5-year-old and you read something, and you turn to your 5-year-old and you say, what do you think about that? And then the kid answers. And first off, when you ask that question, you need to be able to accept you're saying, what do you think? Every answer is right, because he's telling you what you think. But that is so empowering for the kid. As a parent, as that caregiver, you are the most important person in that kid's life. And when you sit down and you say to the kid, what do you think? The kids are always being told what to do, and they're learning everything, and everybody else is the expert. I don't know anything, but wait a minute. This person is asking me what I think. Oh, and then they're listening to me. Yikes. That, I think, is super empowering. And I think that's the superpower of kids' books.
I agree. And I think one of the reasons that's so important to remember is because a lot of times when kids are little, we're always telling them, be quiet. You're too noisy. I'm trying to do this. Be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Or hold on a sec. Not yet. In a little while, blah, blah, blah. And they're just shut down in a lot of different ways. And so this opens them up, lets them feel worthy, lets them feel like they have something of importance to say.
I love it.
Yeah.
The other thing about children's books, especially this next generation of children's books that are coming out, is taking these abstract ideas and information and putting them into basic terms that young ones can actually digest and understand, and help even us adults evolve. Because we're trying to teach them through a fun little book or a character or whatever, but how much are they teaching us too?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's another thing when I think one of the coolest things is when your kid points something out to you, and you admit, I didn't know that. You just taught me something. Thank you. because our kids put us up on pedestals, and it's really hard to stay up on those pedestals. And one of the things that I always recommend to young parents is get the hell off that pedestal as soon as you can, because at some point you're going to make a mistake. And if you go for years trying to maintain that pedestal and letting kids think that you're, trying to imply that you're perfect and you can't make mistakes, when you finally fall, it's going to be a big crash. So I get off myself, let the kids know I'm going to make lots of mistakes. And if you can teach me something, dude, we're all in together. What a team.
Yeah, I mean, adults and kids are all just trying to figure things out on the fly.
Yep.
Just a little older.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I love it because we're dismantling the traditional mindset when it comes to I'm the parent. You do what I tell you. Don't do you don't necessarily have to. I don't have to set the example or whatever, but you just have to do what I tell you because I know best. And my philosophy with my kids when they were younger was, I want to learn. You're the evolved version of me. I want to know what you're thinking and what you're doing differently, because some of the stuff I chose to do didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when you take that attitude and you're learning from your kids and you're letting your kids know, I don't know everything, I'm going to make mistakes, and you're able to apologize if you make a mistake and own up to it and change the way you're thinking about something, I think it gives your kids gain more respect for you, and you're less likely to need to do it because I said so kind of nonsense.
Yeah, you're giving a valuable tool that as an adult, you're going to make mistakes. That's human. So if you can teach that resiliency, that self-forgiveness, that awareness of, hey, it's a learning opportunity. Now, I can tell you, as many clients as I work with, you're setting yourself up for success, because there's a lot of people I work with that didn't have that as a foundation. And so they have a hard time bouncing back from mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, life's all about failure and mistakes and how you come back from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Bounce back. That's what I'm trying to do every day.
I know. What do you have any plans for the podcast? I mean, it's still going incredibly strong right now. I mean, do you have any additional things you want to maybe add to it or tweak it, or do you have any other plans to make this more of a little empire, a Jed empire, and
yeah, the evil empire, I'm not sure about that, but we are doing some neat things. We launched a magazine, the Reading with Your Kids magazine. It's online. I have an amazing editor, Rory Grady, is doing such a great job. What a great writer. And also teacher. We have lots of interns working with us from Emerson College here in Boston. And Rory is a graduate from Emerson, and he has helped these young people elevate their writing so much. I read the first drafts, I'm like, this is great. And then Rory gives little gentle tweaks and suggestions, and what they come back with afterwards is like, wow, it's just amazing. And so the writing in that magazine, I really encourage folks to check it out. You can find it on our blog at readingwithyourkids.com. Check it out because it's really wonderful. So we have that going, and that is allowing us to do, we have a cooking with your kids segment or feature in the magazine. And just a simple recipe that you can create with your kids. Again, when I was reading with my kids, that led to cooking with my kids. And there's a picture of my son. I think he was 4, and he's helping to cook pancakes. And you see him, he has his hand over the frying pan, like way up high, like, oh yeah, I can't it's hot. Yeah, I don't want to, and so that cooking it's a great activity. We're also, it's so neat. Young woman, Monica Rivera Sosa, another intern from Emerson College. This past summer, I gave her a little challenge. A few years ago, I bought the domain STEM is Family Fun. And I said, I'd love to do something with this. And Monica and I were brainstorming, and we came up with the idea of, what if we could partner with some children's museums around the country to, create some fun little YouTube-y type videos. And so she reached out, and very quickly we formed a partnership with the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum and the National Children's Museum down in Washington, D.C. So we're just putting those videos up on our YouTube page. So we have those two things going on. Back before I was hurt in January, we started another segment called Drawing with Your Kids, where we're inviting some of the illustrators that we have come on the podcast to celebrate their books, to teach us how we can draw one of their characters. And that got off to a great start. Then I ended up in the hospital for a little too long. But we got to get that back going. So in answer to your question, yeah, we have these other great things that we've started, and I really need to push myself to get them going full time.
Awesome. Are you going to have a swearing with your kids section?
People listen to my podcast just like the folks who work with my daughter. I don't believe they've heard me swear on the podcast because it's a family podcast.
I'm just kidding. I know. I had to ask.
That's okay. That's okay.
I love it. I love it.
But I do have to admit, there was a time that one of my audiences many, many years ago, in fact, before I met my beautiful wife, heard me swear on stage. Well, I was actually off stage, but I was performing in a Boston public school. It was in 1983. And it was the first time I'd ever performed with a wireless lavalier microphone. And I came out on stage and I was wearing a new pair of shoes, and I caught an edge and I broke my ankle. As the show was beginning, coming on stage, dancing, bam, caught my ankle, went down. Kids laughed because I'm a clown and I'm doing magic. Yes. And so I heard that laughter and I bounced back up, and the adrenaline just, was there. It's new. I'm just starting to perform, and I'm out, and I finished the show. And a buddy of mine was there, and he came backstage because I just usually I shake hands with kids, and I just go right backstage, and he comes in and he goes, what happened? And I goes, Danny, I think I broke my fucking ankle. And he's sitting there, he's looking, he goes, wow, yeah, I think you broke your fucking ankle. And I didn't realize it, but my microphone was still on. So as the kids are filing out of the auditorium, and so the principal, all of a sudden, he comes running in. He goes, Jedlie, what happened? And I goes, I think I broke my fucking ankle. And he looked down, and the thing is as big as a football. And he goes, yeah, you broke your fucking ankle. But, the kids are listening to you. Shut off the microphone.
Oh, my gosh.
That's almost as good as a teacher once at the nonprofit that I work with forgot to turn his off when he went into the bathroom.
Oh boy.
Oh, yes.
These things happen.
It does. It does. I'm happy to say I became much more disciplined with my wireless microphones.
Awesome.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, we're at the end of our show, believe it or not, already. I know it always goes by fast. Jamie, you have any parting questions or shots?
Oh, I get cheap shots here? All right. Dodgeball. You said you were good at dodgeball. So. No, thank you so much, Jed. And let's continue this conversation. Thank you for the good work you're doing in the world. It's very meaningful, and we need more of this.
Thank you very much. This was a blast. I'm glad you're hanging out with my buddy Brian, keeping him in line. And
I don't know about that.
Listening, folks.
Brian, thank you. It's always great, buddy.
Take care.
Too.
Thanks for joining Jamie and Brian on Recess, the podcast, the twice-weekly show of eclectic, inspired, and entertaining discussion. Be sure to subscribe as well as share with your friends and spread the good news. It's always appreciated. If you'd like to learn more about Jamie's intuitive coaching services and creative projects, please go to jamiedon.com. And if you'd like to learn more about Brian and his creative spark world and books, please go to gbrianbenson.com.